Welcome to our first ever Galactic Civilizations IV Supernova Community Challenge game, Flight of the Phalenoids. I'll be playing the first 30 turns of this scenario and then inviting you to take over to see how you deal with the threat of destruction that looms over the Phalenoids. At the end of the video, I'll provide some tips to help you plan your strategy, as some approaches will work better than others. The AI factions here were carefully chosen to provide a fun challenge and an interesting situation that the Moths are well suited to deal with if played well. When the AI plays the Phalenoid Advance in this game, they'll reliably lose every single time, so a sound knowledge of the game mechanics will be required to beat the scenario. All that said, everybody watching here should be able to win if they play well. Let's take a quick look at the game settings before it starts, as you'll be taking over from me after turn 30. Most importantly, this is a small sized map with a single sector, with slightly more stars, minor races and extreme planets than usual. There are plenty of strategic resources on the map, but they'll not be evenly distributed, and the Phalenoids may need to fight for some of them. The galactic difficulty is set to bright, and this should be enough for most players watching this video. The difficulty here comes more from the choice of AI civilizations and their relative proximities, rather than the galaxy difficulty setting, and have been selected to provide an interesting set of potential outcomes that you'll be able to take on in different ways, using the various tools the Phalenoids have at their disposal. That said, if you're experienced with the game and fancy a stronger challenge, set it to Genius and get ready for a real fight. We'll take command of the Phalenoid Advance, a civilization of moth-like carbon-based lifeforms best known for their civilization ability Nocturnal. Phalenoids evolved to operate in two great cycles of 15 months, the Season of Waking, boosting manufacturing and growth, and the Season of Dreaming, granting a bonus to research and influence. This unique ability is what gives the Phalenoids playstyle its distinctive flow, and a canny player will time their most expensive manufacturing and research projects to take full advantage of this seasonal boost to their economic performance. Phalenoids are also hopeful, meaning higher approval and better results from persuasion in diplomatic trades and events, which stacks with the persuasive civilization trait and complements likeable +2 and its large bonus of +3 to all diplomacy. The Phalenoids are master diplomats and can talk their way out of many dangerous situations, turning potential enemies into pliable trade partners, for a while at least. Urbanites squeezes more moths onto a core world, while influential +1 grants a +10 bonus to influence. This can be a blessing or a curse depending on your playstyle. Faster border expansion can claim territory more quickly, but border friction will strain diplomatic relations with adjacent rivals and could bring the Moths into armed conflict before they're ready for it. The Phalenoids have a good quality Paradise class homeworld to develop, and progressivism as their cultural focus. You're not forced to traverse this one ideology, and there may be ideological traits from other branches that you'll want to secure for your particular playstyle. But the research benefits granted on this path make it an attractive option, and will likely serve the Moths well in this playthrough. The Phalenoids' home system of Neritia spawned on the edge of the map, and somewhat isolated from other star systems. On the one hand, aggressors will have to travel a long way to reach our homeworld, but it also means we'll be expanding a lot slower. Our strategy will be to get as many core worlds up and running as possible. This won't be easy as our rivals likely started with more stars nearby, so we're going to focus on researching techs that improve on range, movement speed for ships, and anything that can speed up the growth rate of our citizens. We'll pick the lowest tax rate to increase approval and subsequently boost manufacturing and research. At turn 13 we've founded 4 new colonies and a core world at Semeli 5. On our homeworld of Ombralune, we've focused on manufacturing development. There's also plenty of food and a good influence output. For now, our net monthly income is very low since we tanked our revenue with the low tax rate. But with the discovery of the Mimot Brotherhood, the Drengen Empire, the Kryn Syndicate and 3 minor worlds, we're hoping to set up some lucrative trade routes. Note the Ascension Crystal just outside the Unukahalai system. Grabbing this will set us up for a prestige victory win, at the expense of upsetting our neighbours, who want those Ascension points themselves. It's turn 23 and we've set up a core world in the Zubinul Ganubi system, which I've renamed to Farflame to save my brain from frying each time I try to say it. Back on Ombralune, we see there's not a lot of industrial development, but the focus on rushing citizens has led to a great increase in the planet's gross income, and alongside the establishment of 2 trade routes with nearby minor worlds, we're in the green again. We've sent a constructor out to establish a starbase near to the Ascension Crystal, and a steady stream of supply ships have kickstarted the development of Semili 5 too. The final 2 AI civilizations have been revealed, with the Zoloxi tucked away in the far northwest of the map behind both the Mimot and the Kryn. The Terran Resistance are located west of Mimot space and north of the Drengian Empire, which is looking quite strong already. A quick look at the balance of power shows the Mimot are in last place, the Zoloxi second to last, while the rest of us are all very close in points, with the Kryn Syndicate just topping the chart by a small margin. On turn 30, it's handover time. Let's take a look at the game state to see what you'll be dealing with when you start the challenge. With only 3 core worlds and just 5 colonies in total, our empire is quite small and fairly spread out. This will be challenging to defend if a war breaks out early. There's a colony ship full of moths on the way to settle Miram 1 here, increasing our economy and giving us another outpost north of our homeworld. We've got no strategic resource income and almost no warships either, although we've taken the opportunity to research orbital ship assembly while it was discounted. Fairly expensive and useful tech for when war breaks out. On the plus side, we've secured an Ascension Crystal, gradually scoring us points towards an eventual prestige victory. However, our neighbours want this crystal too, and will probably suffer diplomatic penalties while we hold it. We've also researched quite far into the yellow line in the governance tree, unlocking more trade routes and increasing wealth generation in the process. There are also 4 civilization policy slots available for use, granting lots of options to further tweak the direction we want to take the Phalenoid Advance in next. On the strategic side of things, we've got the Mimot Brotherhood and the Kryn Syndicate as our closest neighbours, with the Drengian a little further out to the west. The Mimot can be friendly, but here they'll want to expand as they've not enough planets to keep their exploding population fed. Worse still, the Kryn have the aggressive behavioural trait, and unless we work to keep them appeased or distracted elsewhere, war seems inevitable. The Zoloxi and Terran Resistance aren't close enough yet to pose much of a threat, but it's highly likely that the Drengian will eventually come knocking. It's at this point that I hand the reins over to you to resolve the game. It might not look like much, but this situation is a precarious one, and I'll explain why now. I picked the AI civilizations here quite carefully. All 3 of your closest neighbours are dangerous. Everybody knows how evil the Drengian Empire are, and you should be suitably prepared for an inevitable conflict if they cannot be otherwise placated. But newer players might not realise that the Kryn Syndicate are just as aggressive and extremely competent at winning smaller, close-in games like this. Do not underestimate the furballs either. In one test game, they built a huge amount of ships in a rather short space of time using the prolific civilization ability, and then threw them at the Terran Resistance, beating them, taking all their worlds and going on to dominate the game. That really took me by surprise, and shows just how dynamic the grand strategy layer of Galciv can be. That said, it is exactly the Mimot's small and weak looking civilization that is the real danger in this game. There are some extreme worlds to colonise once the right techs are reached, but once those are gone, the Mimot are going to start looking pretty tasty to their larger neighbours, who'll be looking to expand into new territory. Another problem comes from the Phalenoids themselves. Their borders tend to expand quite rapidly, particularly during the season of dreaming, and this will cause friction with the Kryn, Mimot and Drengian. It's only a matter of time before the Kryn or Drengian declare war on you, and one war declaration will often follow the other quite rapidly as they both smell blood in the water. So, here are some hints to help you out a bit. Rival civilizations will usually pick on weaker looking targets, unless you've done something to really annoy them. So, don't look weak. While I didn't build many warships yet, I've made some efforts to rush towards the battlecruiser's doctrine tech, but you'll have to figure out which components you want and grab the relevant techs from the warfare tree. Make sure to build some mining starbases to grab the strategic resources you'll need for the best components. The Phalenoids are persuasive and good at diplomacy, and I've built them here to get early access to trade routes, remembering that the AI is less likely to declare war on long-standing trade partners. Both the Terran Resistance and the Zoloxi are potential allies, at least temporarily, but you'll need to set those trade routes up before you go to war with anybody else, unless you're willing to guard your freighters with substantial fleets. You won't usually win the game by just sitting there and waiting, but you do have that one Ascension Crystal. Just be prepared to defend it. The AI won't concede the game that way without putting up a fight, unless perhaps they're very distracted with one another. Also, remember the potential for the Phalenoids to push out a lot of influence. Just be aware that you won't make many friends that way. The game save for this challenge will be linked in the video description, so download it and try it out. It'll be quite difficult for beginners, but if you spend some time really looking at all the civilizations in play and their various abilities and traits, you'll get a feel for how to read the map and keep on top of them. For veteran players, I'd up the difficulty to Genius or above, and see how you can do. We've included a link to the community challenges section of our Discord channel for you to share your experiences with us and other players. This scenario is set up to throw out some surprising situations, and we hope you enjoy playing it. Cheers.